This is the Conscious Planet Network with your host, myself, Gaianna Sophia. In these episodes, we'll be diving into inspirational stories of change, new technologies, and people really making a difference. There is just so much going on the planet right now that is helping to change humanity, our planet, and the future, and we need to know about it. So be sure to subscribe to the show so as not to miss any episodes. A big part of this is showcasing people who've stepped up and aligned with their life purposes, recognizing that the more we attune to our destinies, why we're here, the more we help expand and evolve our collective future. At the beginning of each show, I'll be sharing stories and tips on how to align your life to a higher purpose of being here to deepen into your destiny. The Conscious Planet Network is an exploration of the evolution that is already in progress, one that you and I are a part of, that's happening on an individual and global level. There are so many people right now who are contributing to changing the tides of our future. Are you ready to be inspired? Hello, people. It's Gaianna here. I'm back after my long trip down to Sedona, driving all the way down to Sedona. Today, I would love to share with you about when we lose our connection to our intuition and what we can do about it. Something happened along this trip where I lost my connection to my intuition. Now, these were really long drives I was taking in this converted van that I turned into a camper van. It was really cute. And I was beetling down the highways and having a very challenging time, actually, with staying awake. And so I'd stop at rest stops, and cafes and little places along the way just to keep me awake every couple of hours. But by the end of the day, if I was doing a really long trip, like seriously, it was a long trip down to Sedona, Arizona from British Columbia, Canada. And I think it's about 2,000 miles. And I ended up driving really a long trip on this one particular day. I think it was about 8 hours of driving, and it was the first 8 hours of driving in a row, on the same day, that I've ever done in my life, in all honesty. And so, boy, I was so tired. I was smack tired, and I stopped at this trucker stop called Love's. Oh, it was called Pilot, actually. There's another one called Love's, but this one was called Pilot's. And I stopped in there and I was like, oh, I have just a little bit farther to go. And I had this area planned out where I was going to stay. It was actually in a Walmart. But the whole time going down, I was like, I shouldn't be staying there. I just shouldn't be staying there. And so by the time I got to this trucker stop, it was so, the energy was so really nice. It was so beautiful. But I sat in my van because I was super confused, and I was like, but I need to push on just this much longer. And I couldn't access my intuition. I couldn't access, if it was right to keep going or if it was better just to stop. Eventually, after sitting down and having a meal at Denny's, I stopped at Denny's. It was novel. And I realized that I was just physically too tired to drive, and so I asked the manager at this trucker stop if I could park in the parking area, which they sometimes let people do. They let truckers pull in and park in these areas, in their own areas, and sleep. And so a good friend of mine was like, oh, you should just pull into trucker stops and just sleep overnight. Anyway, I'm not the type of person where I'm just gonna just do it. I have to go and ask just to make sure it's all good, because I'm not going to sleep otherwise. I'm going to be awake and thinking about, oh, am I allowed here? So I ended up sleeping through the night, and it was a really, really good decision that I made. It had to be a very logical decision. It came down to a crash where it's like I just couldn't go any further, and it was obvious. And also the energy there was really nice. So that was less about my intuition guiding me and more about just practical states. But this had happened another couple of times on the trip where I pushed myself to exhaustion and I couldn't access my intuition when it came to finding a place to park, to stay that was safe. And so I wanted to just touch on that with you guys here today. I mean, on just a very practical level, from here on out, I'm going to find a parking spot before 5 o'clock so that I can sleep overnight. And that's what I decided on the trip, so that I could, make sure I had enough time to set up and I was just safe and it just felt good. But yeah, but it really made me realize how disconnected from my intuition I was because of the physical exhaustion. And it made me feel like, yeah, this is a really important subject to talk about how we can lose our connection with our intuition and the different reasons, the main reasons that came to me were physical issues. So whether it be physical exhaustion, like exhausted at the end of the day, just even from work, or even physical problems. So if we're having issues with our bodies and we're, the physical pain is a lot. It's really hard to access our intuition. Like it can be. I'm not saying across the board it is. There's always exceptions to every single rule. And also stress. So if we've had a lot of stress in our lives, or we're experiencing a lot of stress and our bodies are tensing up, our mind tends to close down to our intuitive abilities because it's so focused on working out an issue or a problem or in a state of anxiety that often its natural state of connectedness with the universe is actually really hard to access. And this could be different types of stresses as well. This could be grief. We could be experiencing grief from breakups or someone passing. This could be in terms of jobs, just taking on higher and higher levels of stress in our lives, having families and jobs and, other things going on, volunteering, just things that just keep piling up. And our cortisol levels can get really high and our levels of functioning can get really high, but at the same time, our stress levels can get really high. And we may not even realize it. So it's important to do some check-ins with ourselves when we're feeling really stressed out or when we're recognizing we can't access our intuition. Because our intuition, it's the deeper knowing in ourselves of the next place that we need to be going. It's our gut feeling. It's our ability to connect with our higher self and get and access our higher outcome, our higher potential in whichever situation we're in. And so we really want this. We want to be able to connect in with those experiences, with that feeling of knowing. You might have experienced times in the past where you got information of what your next step would be, the good next step would be, and you didn't take it, but looking back, you're like, oh, I knew that. I knew I should have done that. We can look back in hindsight and recognize when our intuition is, really helping us and guiding us. But when we don't access our intuition, when we don't actually tap in and connect up, then we can end up feeling really disconnected with the universe. We can feel like we're kind of wandering aimlessly, like we're not sure, we're kind of feeling lost and abandoned even. Some experiences can feel abandoned. And we can also end up feeling like the universe is very random. Events and everything are happening that are super random. Now, I'm going to share an example, a simple thing you can do to, start accessing your intuition during those intense times. And it doesn't take more than a minute sometimes. All you need to do is stop, take some deep breaths, call upon your higher self. And you can put your hands on your heart or on your womb or on your on your lower belly if you're a man, and just ask a deeper question. What feels right? What actually feels like the right place, the right direction to be going? Outside of all logical back or forth, this or that, what feels the right direction? No matter how irrational it feels, what feels like the right direction? And listen, really just allow whatever to come to come. And if it doesn't at first, then that's okay. Just the holding space for that, just carving out a little area to hear that, is taking steps towards it. So each time you do it, then it creates more and more space for you to connect. And then eventually you'll start to be able to listen into those deeper feelings. And if it doesn't come in a minute, then try a couple minutes. Try, just 2 or 3 minutes, and just feeling in, and really giving yourself some permission to feel this. Especially in our busy, stressful environment world where everything's ADD, everything's super fast. Now, when the stress levels are so high, like I experienced, where the physical exhaustion was just immense, just too much. I couldn't do anything other than my very, very best. That's all we can do, right? And at the same time, recognize, okay, so my stress levels are high. What can I do to decrease them? So it's like we actually need to start to reframe things and start to decrease our stress levels so that we can start not only accessing our intuition, but start having a higher quality of living. Because when we're functioning in those stress levels, as much as sometimes, we can justify them, sometimes we get so used to them that we kind of like that cortisol kick. And it's so understandable. It's just the way that the body mechanisms work. But at the same time, we need to really click in with our higher awareness of, like, is this actually adding to the quality of my day? Is this adding to the quality of my moment, of the time that I get to experience in this life? We can really just blast on through and ride through life. And we're here for a much greater experience. I once had this amazing vision to experience why I came here. And I had this vision of pre-birth, of flying over the planet and seeing all of these amazing places and getting to see all of this life that was here and just being so excited. And I also saw humanity and our potential. And so it excited me to come here. Now, not everybody may get to experience their pre-life visions. But if you can boil down the essence of what the heck you're doing here, what it is that really opens you, to this experience of life, we I'm just getting so excited, but also kind of like, we have such an amazing opportunity to live an authentic life, to live what is deeper within us. So the more that we can align with our intuitions, the more we can start to be guided by our higher selves, so that we can start to fulfill what it is we're here for. And we can start to get visions, we can start to get other things if we go into doing the spiritual healing. Basically spiritual healing is removing blocks that have kept us from really living a deeply connected life with Source, with our sense experience of being here. What can also help with increasing our ability to be intuitive is to put ourselves in high vibrational areas. So this is part of what I did when I went down to Sedona. I went into what's called the vortexes. There's different energy points down in Sedona that are really high frequency, really high energy. And a vortex is a spinning spiral, and either it goes up out of the earth, or it comes down from the from the sky into the earth. So there can be different directions. And each vortex has a different quality to it, a different energy to it. So it has different properties that it can help you with. So I ended up just totally allowing myself to be guided when I went down there, and was attracted to 3 vortexes. And when I went into each vortex, my ability to connect with spirit was strengthened by 100-fold. So, but there were many people around me who were just walking oblivious to it, walking around, but they were still being affected on some level, but they weren't intentionally going into this space. And so what you can do is, if you have an area around you that you feel is high vibratory, so if it has, like, if it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel like connected in a deeper level, and you haven't really been able to put your finger on it, then these are the sites you want to go to, whether they're recognized as sacred or not. Maybe it's even just by the beach, because the beach, the elements that mix the earth and the water and the sky down at the beaches are very powerful for energy. And so when we go to these places, we can access higher levels of our connection with source. And I mean, we can go there and just see the beauty of it, but we can go there and see and experience a deeper experience when we go there. And so in order to do that, what you want to do, if you feel called, is when you sit, you find yourself a nice place that feels good, and sit down, or you can stand, and call upon your higher self, call upon your holy self, your source self, however you see yourself in connection with spirit. And if you haven't, or with connection with source, and if you haven't seen yourself in connection, you can just try one of those out. At first it's like doing the motions before it becomes something that you can really feel. So give yourself space and time to do it, and be a lot of compassion. Lower the expectations. I mean, so have it so that you don't, oh, I didn't get that huge vision, so, blah, blah, blah. It's like a muscle. When you start getting connected, you start recognizing what the connection feels like, to be connected with your intuition, connected with source. And so the more you work with it, the stronger it gets. And so basically you could get to the point of, whenever you go to any of these sacred sites or high vibrational sites, you can start getting visions immediately, or within a period of time you will get visions. And some people have it in different ways. So some people will get visions, some people will hear things, some people will feel things. Sometimes it's good to come with pens and papers. Sometimes it's good to draw. Whatever you're naturally feeling inclined towards. This will help and strengthen your intuition, is going into these sacred sites, or these high vibrational sites, because it's higher energy than what we're used to. And in our houses, it can get, if we're not clearing down our spaces on a regular day-to-day, or after a big emotional outburst or experience, then those energies linger. And so we're living within those energies, those dense energies. And so we can, once we've gone out to these beautiful places and come back home and be like, oh my gosh, my house is so heavy, then do some clearing work on it so that you can start bringing it back up to a higher level of frequency. And that's another way of doing it as well, is really having a second eye almost on your personal space, and considering having a check-in. Sometimes it's easier if you've gone away, like you're out for the day, and then you come back and you're like, okay, how does my house feel? Does it feel really good to be in? Or does it feel really heavy and dense? Do I start going into some heavy thoughts just by being here? if that's the case, then go get yourself some high quality incense. Well, it doesn't have to be super high quality. Nag Champa is just fine enough. Or some sage, and make sure there's open windows, and give yourself a clear down in your space so that you can start to have more, so you can support your higher level frequencies, your higher level levels of energy in your body. And we want to do this all around. We want to have high energy in our bodies and supported from the outside around us, because it aids us the ease and grace of being connected with our intuition. The more the high vibrational areas are around us, the more we have ourselves in those, the easier it is. The more dense it is around us, the harder it is to connect. And it may take a little bit of time to learn how to sense these things, but it's once you've got it, it can be one of your greatest tools for self-love. Really, it's self-love and it's self-care, because you're looking after yourself in a really, really practical way. This is super practical, down to earth, just, wipe the toilets, flush, look after the basic needs of our souls. I just want to share an experience that I had in one of those vortexes is down in Sedona. I actually happened upon this vortex. I didn't know it was one, but I could feel that it was different. The energy, it was very perfume-like. It had a beautiful quality to it where I felt really at ease within myself. And so it was right by a stream, and it was by the stream went past this vortex site called Cathedral Rock, which was this huge mountainous red rock that jutted out from the earth, and it looked epic. But its quality of energy was very gentle. It was very soft, and it would help people with their healings. And so this stream went past Cathedral Rock and then came to this other area, which actually was another vortex, but it was the Cathedral Rock vortex was one directional vortex, whereas this other vortex I was in the opposite directional vortex. And so it was both vortexes. So it was the going up, the energy going up, as well as energy coming down. So I didn't know this, but I was just there, and I went to the waters, and Sedona is like 4,000 feet high, and I put my feet in the water, and it was just freezing. It was, you think of Sedona, you think of Arizona, you think heat, right? No. This was a glacier stream. It was beautiful, absolutely exquisite, but it was also freezing. And so, but at the same time, I felt like when I put my feet in, it just felt so good. It felt so nourishing. So I decided to dip my whole body in. And so it took me about 10 minutes. And I can't believe that I stayed in that long, but I slowly dipped, my feet, then, lowered my legs into it, and then my torso, and that took forever. And then I put my head, I laid back into it, because it was this thin pool kind of underneath of me, and on the side of the lake. And as I leaned my head back into it, I could feel the river. I closed my eyes, and it felt like pure light. It felt like pure white light, and that it was affecting all of my cells. It was like it was a reset of my experiences, and it was so powerful. It almost felt like my body had disappeared at one point. I kept my face out of the river, but my head felt like it really, really needed this energy clear down. It was like, getting an incense stick through my head. Not just instant, I'll say a sage stick, because it's a bit more holy for my head. But I put it, so the energy, it was like a huge energy sweep and clearing and reset of like all of the connective tissues in my head. And I felt like this would be an amazing stream for baptism. Like, and I'm not saying any denomination, I'm just saying for people who want to reconnect with their soul, with their life purpose, with the depth of who they are. Because when I came out of there, I just laid on these long flat rocks, and it just, I let the sun beat down on me, and within 10 minutes I was warm again and almost dry because of the heat that was there. Oh my gosh, kind of reliving it here. And so it was a major shift for me. It was a major turning point. Each of the vortexes that I was in was a major turning point. And because I had seen them all within a 10-day span, I couldn't see them all like one after the other. It was too much. Like the energy there in those spaces was so great that I had to give myself a little bit of time to just feel the energy and let it move and let it do its work with me before I went to another one. And so it was a deeply listening in and being guided by this energy, by the need for healing, because it was a real healing and activation experience. Well, I hope you enjoyed this show today. I enjoyed making it. And if you have any other experiences of, how your intuition gets shut down, I'd love to hear about them. Maybe it'll go on one of the shows at some point. You can go to the Facebook group, which is under Gaianna Sophia, Gaianna Sophia. That's my page. And each show is a podcast, and so you can make a note underneath of the podcast and let me know. Let me know what you've noticed can shut your intuition down and what you do about it. Like if there's any practices that you do, I'd love to hear about it. So thanks for listening in, everybody, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye. Thank you for taking these stories in. I hope they inspire you to walk to the beat of your own drum and start to tickle your curiosity into the possibility of enjoying a bright and beautiful future. May these stories inspire us all to see a greater vision of what's possible for the world. If you like this story and want to hear more, then Google Gulf Island Community Radio and listen live on your computer every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can find out more about me, Gaianna, at gaiannasophia.com. That's spelled GaiannaSophia.com, where I've got links to my YouTube channels, and you get to see me live, where you can tune in and listen to the recordings of this show online. If you know of a special someone who would love this program, then be sure to send it along to them. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Planet Network, broadcasting to you from the Gulf Island Community Radio. See you next time.